This video is going to focus on some of the unheralded players on the defensive side of the ball specifically that had an impact in the Lions' 34-31 win over the Packers on Thursday Night Football. Aaron Glenn's group did give up 31 points. Green Bay also averaged 6.5 or 6.6 yards per play. So some would say, how can you credit Aaron Glenn's defense? Well, if you look at the guys that were on the field and where they are on the depth chart, even in the case of some of them late in the game, where they are on the depth chart still right now, with so many defensive starters and second string guys, rotational pieces being out for extended periods of time or just this past week, I think this is a game that you as a Lion fan should remember for a long time. It sounds like Dan Campbell has kind of characterized it in the same way. I haven't had much time at all on Friday during the day or Friday evening to try to produce content. I was able to push out my reaction video and one film study look at the fourth down play calls that Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson relied on to basically separate themselves from the Packers, put Matt LaFleur in a real bind at times. I think their willingness and effectiveness when going for it on fourth down really drew a stark contrast to at least one of the decisions that LaFleur had to make. Let's get into the film. I got 17 plays queued up here. We're going to focus on, like I said, the defensive side of the ball and some of the players who had an impact that maybe we didn't know the name of a month ago or even weren't on the roster 5 days ago. This is first quarter, first possession for the Packers, 1st and 10. And a couple of things. First of all, Alexander and Jamal Adams are on the field. They were signed last week, which is pretty unbelievable. That tells you about the situation as far as injuries, how drastic it is, number one. Also, something to mention, early in the game when Aaron Glenn's defense was responding to nickel, so version number 1 is the one that I'm showing here with the ball on the right hash, so wide side to the left for the offense, to the right for the defense. Then he had Jamal Adams on the field. Conversely, when he had his nickel defense on the field, or what I'll call 4-2-5 in this video, and the wide side of the field was to the right for the offense or the left for the defense, Jamal Adams was off, Amik Robertson was on. I don't know why that is, but I've seen it happen 3 times just in the first 3 possessions. I'm going to focus on, to be honest with you, the 4 stops that the Lions made in this game, but particularly the first 3 that they made in the first half to help them get up 10-0. Check out CD3. He's got no work here up at the top of the screen. He's going to fall off and try to find work from the other side of the field. The Packers love these over concepts with Christian Watson and others. And CD3 is essentially taking it away. And as a result, Za'Darius Smith is able to get a sack. Who would have guessed at this point that if someone had told you before the season that a former Cleveland Browns D end would be leading the team in sacks for the last 4 or 5 weeks, you would say, well, great, we got Myles Garrett. You certainly wouldn't say Za'Darius Smith would be that guy, and number 1. And number 2, he would be leading just what is a motley crew replacements. No-name defense is already taken from decades ago. If you're too young, I understand. Jonah Williams, I think, played quite well. He's a guy who appears to have some versatility, can play inside D tackle, outside D end. Really, to me, looks like he fits in that Kaminsky, Pascal type mode as a hybrid guy, particularly to the boundary. This is the same play from the end zone angle. He's to the field. Jamal Adams is off screen to our right. Seemed like they thought they were throwing. It was Amik Robertson. Kind of a simplistic explanation there, but that's what you get right now. Still on this first drive, Robertson on the field. Ball isn't necessarily on the left hash. It's in the middle of the field, so it doesn't really fit with my theory. It's a 2nd and 17 after, where he just showed tremendous leadership ability, number 1, and number 2, awareness to get in the window. Also, because of the depth situation for the Lions, Za'Darius Smith is on at D tackle here. So that's notable because they're down so many guys. Now, part of it could be by design. You want to get your best pass rushers on the field in 2nd and 17. Let's run through it again one more time with Jack Campbell. He's getting his hips open to look for work here. And we'll try to pause this a couple of times so you can see he's letting this vertical pass through. I think that's to Branch. And then you're getting a later developing dig or in that Jack Campbell, number 1, is going to take care of and cover up so that Jordan Love can't fit that ball in that window. 5. Love is trying to get the ball to Jaden Reed. It's clearly a DPI on Brian Branch right here in the middle of the field. I do want to notice or take notice on some of the pass rush stuff early on. The Lions' tenacity. They were completely out-physicaling the Packers early in the game. I get it, all the conversations out there about penalties and stuff, but if you just watch the first 3 possessions, maybe the Packers had to adjust. They certainly made it really close, losing 34-31. Za'Darius Smith makes the center disappear here to get a quarterback hit. Love took some shots, particularly early in the game, that it's kind of amazing with what to a month ago anyone would have tried to convince you and say is starting caliber players in the NFL. Not able to get a stop on the first 3 and out. Branches DPI. I think he's trying to play a vertical route, and Jaden Reed ends up changing directions, going to the outside, so they're able to generate a first down via penalty. Ball's back on the right hash, still on that same possession, first possession, and now the Packers are in what I would call 21 personnel. So you've got Jacobs, and I think that's a fullback type. I don't pretend to know his name, but it's number 30. And a version of nickel. Great job by Jamal Adams here, if you ask me, of fitting underneath of the receiver's block and then forcing the ball inside. The tight end is also trying to crack Jack Campbell. So the tight end went in motion down, and then he releases to the inside, trying to crack Jack Campbell, who gets underneath of it. But watch Jamal Adams step up field, kind of force this thing inside, such that the running back Jacobs has to bring this back. Or I guess the other option would be bounce it. At least one pass rep that I would say he perhaps didn't play it well, didn't cover it well on a play action. Jamal Adams is just on the right-hand side of your screen here. Same play from the end zone angle. Watch Alexander's fit. Because it's kind of like a counter scheme or split zone, the defensive end from the left-hand side of the defense, it's Muhammad. He's folding down, stepping down violently. He's trying to dig underneath of this block by the fullback. He's trying to get into that gap right there. As a result, Quan Alexander, very experienced inside linebacker, folds over the top, unblocked. He's there along with Aleem McNeil. After the Packers generated a Jacobs, they really didn't get anything done with the run game, at least not consistently, in my opinion. Very next play after that 1-yard gain, 2nd and 9, they've switched personnel groupings, so 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field, 1 running back. The Lions have matched with their base 3-4. And you're going to see a couple, and in this video, you're going to see 2 of these, whereby it's 12 personnel, and the Packers motion to get 2 receivers on the same side. The Lions answer with what I call cowboy, meaning two corners on the same side. Arnold and CD3, both on the same side. Looks to me like Love is either checking to this little screen or here early on for the Packers, in my opinion. I feel like they're being very conservative. That gain of 3 creates a 3rd and 6. And with the ball on the left hash, passing situation, clearly you would choose to have Amik Robertson on the field as opposed to Jamal Adams. So they utilized all 3 of those guys in combination with Jack Campbell. Really nicely done how Robertson passes this off and CD3 takes over Jaden Reed, who I don't think had a catch in the game. I thought O'Connor played well. 1 possession, you've got 1 stop already. We're going to move forward a little bit onto the second possession. I'm not necessarily going to show you every play from every drive. This will be their second stop late in the first quarter. I think it's like 3.5 minutes left, somewhere around in there. The Packers had got the ball in great position. I think they'd got the ball in like the negative 48 and gained 5 yards. This is now an ensuing 3rd and 5. Robertson's on the field, going to motion across with Watson. And it's a fantastic job of pressure by Turner and just a violent finish by Za'Darius Smith. Yeah, there is contact to the helmet, to the head. Focus on that if you want. They were getting after Love and the Packers. Playing man, here's Robertson. Arnold against Reed. I think that's Wicks versus Branch in the middle of the field. Nobody really open. I will give you the end zone angle so you can see this one. A violent finish to the play. Those guys were playing badass. It's a man-free coverage. 2 guys who you would have never thought would be on the field as recently as even 3 weeks ago are having an impact early in the game against the Packers, who are a very good football team. O'Connor wins immediately. Those guys were overwhelming the Packers offense, if you ask me, on the first 2 possessions with physicality, tenacity, and just getting to the football and making contact with people. This will be Later in the first quarter, this will be after the Lions offense has actually punted a second time. They're still up 7-0. One thing to note here is the formation, the Joker's formation. The Packers seem to like it, and then this little short motion back to F counter. I think Long overruns this a little bit. And compare it with how Alexander plays the same concept later on. So we're talking here. You got the guard pulling and kicking, the fullback leading up. I think he's the guy that gets to Campbell. And then Long ends up going like over the top of this, and that's kind of where the cutback lane is. Fortunately, Brian Branch is there to fit on the backside. Still ends up being a 7-yard gain. Of course, the first play here is going to be, this is a huge momentum swing. This is 2nd and 3, third possession, first play, opening play of the second quarter. And again, the Packers have gone 12 personnel, motion to receiver across. I think I would call this Aaron Glenn's FU look. And that's whereby you get 2 tight ends on one side, and he takes an edge defender, puts him over the top of one of the tight ends, and then puts a linebacker or a safety inside of that alignment. In this case, it's Long, who appears to be matched up with the tight end. Trying to play man here. And you can see Watson running underneath of all this trash. CD3 trailing way over the top. There's really not much you can do if you're going to play. The first maybe 2 weeks of the year, I didn't see the ball hawking nature swing because the Lions offense had been stopped twice, the second and third possession. And in this case, they were able to go down and get a field goal to turn that into an early 10-0 lead. Same play from the end zone angle, and you can see CD3 motioning across with Watson. It's Williams on the quarterback hit. Clean win. I've mentioned the left tackle getting beat. You've seen the center get Za'Darius Smith basically make him disappear. O'Connor beat the center, and now you have Campbell on a blitz late. I'm a little bit shocked watching the film. Still think, and I'm showing you, I think you'll have to agree, that there's multiple wins here from a pass rush standpoint early in the game by players who would be considered third string for the Lions overall. Moving forward to the third quarter, this is going to be one of the most important plays of the game, other than Turner's tackle on Love in the fourth quarter. This is going to be Terrion Arnold matching up with Christian Watson on a third down later on. Now, this is not the third down. I'm kind of setting it up. Check it out. You got 12 personnel, and because the receiver is over on the same side as the tight ends, they're not in what I would call the FU look for Aaron Glenn. Flea flicker and just a great job of Jack Campbell getting underneath of that dig route by Christian Watson across the middle of the field. We're talking about something like this. Campbell's going to get a wrong read. He's stepping up. Wrong means, it's a flea flicker, so you're going to be wrong. And then he turns and tries to get underneath of that route to get in the window, essentially, so that Love can't just flick that ball over there. Also, you got CD3 trying to find work underneath of here. Wicks against Branch, possibly getting to the sideline, maybe want to throw that football. Another time where Love is on the ground, just in this game. I wouldn't expect them to get a lot of sacks with these players on the field. But the fact that they were getting pressure, the fact that they were at least impacting him and putting him on the ground, I think is noteworthy. How did they do it on this particular play? It's Nowaski with a late little chop down on the tight end's hands. I don't think it's Kraft. I could be wrong. He's engaged. Nothing is happening. And he finally is able to swipe down. These guys don't make it look pretty. Don't get me wrong. The players that are on the field right now on defense, but they're getting the job. Is just as important as the fumble that CD3 forced because of the time period. So we're leading up to it. This is 2nd 10. Lions are still up 24-21. And now against this Joker's look, they've rolled Branch into the boundary. Remember the previous time when I think Long kind of folded over the top too far, Branch's feet were back here on the backside. He fit underneath on Jacobs the last play of the first quarter to tackle him for a 7 goal. 66. I think that's Martin involved in the play. End zone angle. Watch the way that Long fits. Alexander fits this. That's different from Long. And again, there's Branch lined up to the tight end side. So my suspicion is they're playing man here, and that's why he's into the other side of the field. Alexander's fit is underneath of the tight end. So we finally got to that third down play that I mentioned a little bit ago. My apologies for that. It's the third quarter. Lions are still up 3. And Arnold against Watson from the bottom of the field. Additional to that, because it's a passing situation and or the ball is on the left hash, Robertson is in the game. I think Adams only played like 8 snaps. So my suspicion is maybe they just wanted to get him on the field some, get him some experience, see him move around. The Lions are playing violent as hell. He's always been a physical football player, so from that standpoint, he fits in. I just don't know what position. I want him to succeed there. I would like to see him make impact plays. I hope against the Bills next week he has an interception and a forced fumble. I'm just not sure what that level of accomplishment this late in the season when you're in such a dire moment or dire need of depth, I still think is a great move. This is badass, man. To take a 24-21 lead, and I actually mentioned this in the video that I put out Friday. I remember them showing video or them showing the floor, and he had this look on his face like, do I really have to go for it on 4th and 3 in the third quarter? It's like Dan Campbell baits you, forces you into playing that game. I don't know exactly how to describe that. It kind of, in some ways, reminds me of like a combat sports moment whereby a great boxer who's slick and can move gets baited into or forced into a slugfest with a heavier puncher. That's kind of what this reminds me of, in my opinion. Moving forward, the last sequence that we're going to focus on here, this is fourth quarter. This is going to be Turner's tackle on Love that occurs, obviously, after the pick route is called on Christian Watson. This is called every time. I don't see how anyone could say, because Jack Campbell does a fantastic job on Jayden Reed. This is the Joker set, and Jacobs is running out of here. So he's going to get covered up by Joseph, who, of course, gets decleated. He gets KO'd. But what they're really trying to set up, in my opinion, is Reed sneaking out up here, and it's Jack Campbell who follows him, matches that width, essentially. Love is looking to the bottom side of our screen to his right, and I think that's a dummy look initially. He's come back here to Jayden Reed because the Packers, think, they know, and they're correct, that the Lions are playing man. But because of Jack Campbell's awareness, this is not there. He's got it covered up. So Love has to come back to it. And I mean, anytime you see this type of contact, this is supposed to, from a responsibility standpoint, the guys that are back there behind the offense, they're not supposed to be calling these penalties down here. I think it's a pretty obvious call. Whether Christian Watson, quote, intentionally ran into him or not, that's a stupid point for people to try to make. He did actually run a pick rub concept. He did actually decleat the defender and knock him down. These referees in live time determine that it's offensive pass interference. I think it is too. I really don't think there's much to argue about there. Have I seen it not called before? Sure. For a couple of teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's about it. Maybe the Patriots when Tom Brady was still there. So that forces a 2nd and goal. And we know how it ends. It's going to be Turner's tackle that forces the Packers to make a decision. In this case, they kick a field goal to tie it at 31. No one is open here. You're playing man to the boundary on Kraft with CD3, man on the running back with Turner, and Campbell helps Turner out. He covers that guy up such that there's nowhere for Love to go with the football. And again, he takes a little shot at the end of the play. I believe it's by Muhammad. Frustrated, but there's multiple examples in this game of the Lions having great coverage, whether it's man or zone, and to focus on that play and that play only, I think is an absolute mistake for Packers content creators, Packers media, and here's why. You have a team in front of you, the Lions, that has an incredible loss of depth on the defensive side. 8, 9 players, something like that. They haven't bitched about it. They haven't complained. They just are there to compete with whoever is able to put the pads on and a helmet on that day, or in this case, that night. The Packers, in that moment of adversity, didn't respond well. The Lions did. The Lions, in my opinion, are the type of team that when they do have situations of adversity, they make the play, at least so far this year. They're 12-1 for a reason. I kind of reject the people blaming it on just that call, and I did so in my Ravens Discord as well. I think it's really short-sighted and doesn't reflect any awareness at all of how certain teams respond to adversity well and certain teams don't. So this is the third down play where Turner is going to – high level of awareness for him, man. He's tasked with guarding the running back. Again, you've got CD3 man on Watson into the boundary. It appears to me as if you've got some type of match coverage to the other side. Is Love going to be able to scramble into the end zone here? No, of course not. There's another player there. I think it's Joseph, who's on for Branch, by the way. And Joseph will be in position to possibly tackle Love if he was to escape Turner. The larger point here is, if you ask me, is that this receiver is coming open on the back right portion of the end zone. And if Turner's not there, to the character that is there on that group on defense and the coaching staff, that you have a player who really, think of it this way, with Jack Campbell, Alexander, and Long, Turner is probably still fourth on the depth chart, with Anzalone and Rodriguez being out. Here he is guarding the running back defense of the Miami Dolphins. The Replacements movie, I get it. I don't know what to call them. I don't know if a name has been applied yet to what they're doing, what they did on Thursday night. I understand Packers fans being so frustrated. I don't understand the juvenile reactions to some of these things when, if you watch the game, that's two well-matched football teams. I thought it was a fun game to watch. The Packers are 9-4 in 2024, but 0-2 against the Lions. They have played a superior brand of football, the Lions, against the Packers by comparison with each other. Haven't turned the football over other than Goff's interception. I think the Lions' defense, what they did on Thursday, is exceedingly rare. My suspicion is that that's what Dan Campbell was talking about when I believe he said to Jared Goff and one other player that, this is a special win. It's a divisional win at home on a Thursday. You do get 10 days rest, or 10 days, I think, between the game against the Bills, which fortunately will be at home. Maybe 2 or 3 players can come back and have an impact to be able to help out. How much longer can they do this? I don't know. Try to appreciate this win. I think I've said this twice before to Lions fans. Forgive me if it sounds like a lecture, but try to appreciate this win, because I just don't see things like this happening in the NFL at all, whereby a team is down 4, 5, 6, 7 starters on one side of the ball, defense in this case, and still able to make it work with players who, in a lot of cases, weren't even in the building a month ago, or let alone 5 days ago, in the case of Alexander, Williams, and Adams. All of those guys, I feel like, competed and played exactly the kind of football that the Detroit Lions and Aaron Glenn wants them to. You guys have to let me know what you think of the video that I produced here, the plays that I chose to try to illustrate how well some of these no-name / replacements performed in limited snaps in some cases, but having an impact in the aggregate as a collective. Maybe the individual stats weren't great. I think Jack Campbell led the way with 8 tackles. Za'Darius Smith had 1 sack. It's just a collection of good football players being coached very well, and they were able to deny Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers once again on Thursday night and move to 12-1. Appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at how Detroit was able to prevail 34-31 on Thursday night, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.